Welcome to Underdog Hoops, presented by great coaches in our basketball community. From the Underdog Hoops studio in Rancho Cucamonga, California, here is your host, Sam Farrar.
Introducing one of our sponsors, the Hoop Geeks Play Creator, the ultimate tool for coaches to animate your basketball playbook, export videos, and create your own playbook in a digital format to share with coaches and your team. Use www.underdoghoops.com/play-creator to find out more. Hey Coach, Coach Sam here from Underdog Hoops. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing team culture and how players, coaches, all can play a factor into growing your team culture. So, what we want to do first is define our team culture. Then we're going to identify our core values. Then we're gonna move on and place our leadership and coach's role, and how to effectively communicate. Then team building activities. Then embracing diversity within the team, establishing team goals, handling conflicts and challenges, and then we'll wrap it all up at the end. So, what we need to do first is define what your team culture looks like. So, everyone has a different team culture in different ways that they gain trust and respect between coaches and players, players and players, players to coaches. So, there is something to be said about having a good rapport with people and being able to talk to them and understand where they are coming from. It is important to build relationships. So you want to basically explain what what this team means, how this team will operate, highlight some impacts and dynamic communications, or how the atmosphere will look. So you want to identify these areas. You would also identify core values. So, what are your values as a coach, and what are your values as a player? This is something that you can go over with your team so that they understand their roles and what you value. So, you want to make sure that, okay, if I want you to be on time, that you emphasize that you want them to be on time, and then why. So, there's a lot of things that are disciplinary, not like getting in trouble, but like these are, okay, this is a discipline for me. I need to do this to get this. That is identifying your core values, what you believe in, and how you think we can get there. Explore examples with your teams and other coaches to gain the trust and respect and accountability for your team. Because if you allow them into the conversation, they're going to be more upfront with you and be willing to talk to you. And, you want to build that coach player relationship the best you can. Leadership and coach's role. So you want to identify the leaders of the team. You want to identify that there's, yeah, I'm the coach, but we're all in this and I'm not two steps in front of you guys. We're all doing this together. So explore how your dynamic will be with your players and your coaches. Now that's my opinion. This is how I'd run it. Where, okay, I want my team to have some say, but I also want to make sure that they understand why we're doing this and how we're doing this. So discussing good qualities fostering positive team culture. This is something that there's been some struggle with some teams lately, and it just needs to be more leadership, and coaches' leadership need to be at the forefront of what you're teaching, especially as a head coach. You want to make sure that you are emphasizing this to your lower levels. Provide tips and strategies for coaches. Um, so tips and strategies, these could be, I personally, I will talk to every one of my athletes and kind of give them a one-on-one meeting, because I think that is important for coaches to do. And I think it is important for me to get to know the individual and get to know something about them off the court, maybe, and then I can pursue and be able to help them better on the court. So we also want to provide effective communication. So effective communication can be, you know, through your team app that you have. This can be as simple as this is when practices are, this is when you need to be there. Set the standards. You need to have effective communication. Set these standards early so that you don't have a problem later. Um, I've seen so many teams, I've done this in the past, and it has hurt because, and this is fairly when I was new, you set expectations and then you don't act on them when they take place. So you need to make sure that you are firm with your standards and how you will operate as a coach. You want to discuss communication with your athletes. So if they're going to miss a practice, how do you want them to respond to that? If you are going to miss practice and you're not communicating, then how will this affect you? So what are the consequences for that? Offer offer a solution to them, make them think about, okay, how do I want to um, handle this? If I was late, how would I want to handle it, or how would I want it handled? So you're putting it in their shoes, but you're also giving them a responsibility to say, hey, if this happens to me, what do I want the consequence to be? But you need to tell them that, like, this is a consequence. You need to be at practice all the time, especially if you are playing for, a school team. This is something that's very important. You need to be at practice every day. Coaches make sacrifices. Players, you guys got to do the same thing. You make sacrifices. Your parents make sacrifices. Um, so it is all that makes effective communication. I also think that, you need to be kind of old school with this and say you give them a calendar. So it has all this stuff printed out with the dates and times of practice, and the dates and times um, are there for a reason so that they know when practices are. So whether that's going to your leadership at the gym that you work at, the school, wherever, and asking, let's put together a schedule. Let's make sure that I get the gym from this time to this time every single day. And that's how it works. Um, so that's effective communication. Make sure you have all these set in place. Team building activities. So discuss a the value of doing team activities. So why are team activities important? So I'll tell you, um, our varsity team went to Santa Barbara, which has a UC Santa Barbara has a camp that they do for high school teams, or AAU teams that are high school level. And the goal of this camp is to build relationships with your athletes, for your athletes to have fun, and to communicate and build chemistry together. So This helps your culture. So this can be something. So we did this a lot. We went to team meals. We did over the weekend. We did a few things that, bonded us as a team. There are some things that were hard for the kids. Curfews, 11 p.m. You had to be in the dorm. You had to turn your cell phone in, and you had to go to sleep. So that is something that's super, super, super important. These are not just team building activities. They help create a culture of, what you want and what you expect as a coach. So you have to learn to grow this part of your coaching and see in a different perspective, maybe than what you're always or what you're seeing it as. So you want to include your athletes in some of the team building stuff. Maybe you have a team meal at someone's house. Maybe it's going to the beach. Maybe it's doing something like that, or like a lake or something. But you always want to create team building activities to help them build chemistry together. The next topic will be embracing diversity. And, you know, every basketball team has some diversity and some backgrounds of different individuals. So it's important to understand that. It's important to embrace that because you want to discuss this with your team and how you can best go about having a diverse team. It's extremely important to me to make sure that no one is feeling left out. Everyone knows a role to the team, and they know that, if you work hard, you're gonna get the time you deserve. And if you don't, then you're gonna fall down, you're gonna slip back in the rotation. And that's how things have to be. Um, the next thing would be establishing team goals. So this is another thing that you can do with your athletes. Sit down, whether you're in your basketball class or if you have just some extra time. Establish team goals. What do you want our goals to be? Are these achievable goals? Are they not achievable? What can we do to reach these goals? Um, so discuss this with your players, discuss this with your leaders. Um, and so how are we going to reach these goals? The next thing that we're going to talk about is handling conflict and challenges. So there can be conflicts and challenges throughout your coaching that year, whether it is from a athlete, a parent, stuff like that. You may have an unruly athlete or an unruly parent. You do not want that to be the downfall of your team culture. So if there is an athlete that's not doing what he's supposed to and is not performing or doing the little things to make sure that, let's say, if their grades are bad or if they are having behavioral problems, well, then, you have to make a decision because you do not want your team culture to be affected by that, even though it'll be affected if they are cut or if something else happens. So you want to make sure that you have good conflict resolution. Maybe you plan this ahead of time. What do we do if this happens? What do we do if this happens? Just set some standards and make sure that you have your standards in place. That's the biggest thing about it. Having a good team culture is having standards, making sure that students meet these standards and are not deferring and going on their own path, and making them see these standards are very important and this is why I need to stick to them. So, in conclusion, this is really team culture is so important to It can make a good team great. It can make a average team good. It can do all those little things. Okay, it can move you up in the standard in uh, your ability to coach them, and they'll listen to you and they'll understand. So you know, building your team culture around that is so strong. Making sure that your team has standards and that they are continuing to grow even when it might be a struggle for them. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you enjoyed, um, you know, this conversation. Maybe you'll go take some of these and implement them into your team, and I hope you do. But we'll see you on the next podcast.